This podcast is going to be focused on our faith. We eventually ended up going to the same Bible college.
I don't know if there was too much Bible in that college.
They say, "Oh, you went to Bible college?" And I said, "Yeah." And they said, "What do you think?" I said, "It's an experience."
It's an experience. Man, there's no way to talk about this without getting deep. Yeah, I did what everybody in America knew to do and thought that was not only the initiation of my faith, but probably close to perfecting it. Life was just dark.
The most tragic thing is not dying, but dying without a purpose. Go into our favorite or funniest Bible story. I think you should go first.
Welcome to Sharp Podcast. I'm George.
I'm Frank, and it's good to be here, man.
It's really good to be here.
So episode one.
Yeah.
So we're gonna see where this goes. We have so much faith for what's gonna happen, but we gotta start right one step at a time.
One step at a time.
So yeah, I mean, I think this podcast would be good to just talk about who we are, what we do, right? Maybe our testimonies, because this podcast is going to be focused on our faith, right? We're both Christian. So you want to share a little bit about that because you had a vision for this, and we're going to talk about it in another podcast.
Right.
But briefly.
No, I mean, I think we both started off the year unknowingly and unbeknownst to me that you were asking God for direction. I happen to be doing the same exact thing. Coming from the idea of, God, how can I be more productive for you? I mean, I've gotten to a point where I feel like I am mature. I love you more than anything on the planet. And I'm trying to find ways where I could bear fruit in other people so that they feel the same way I feel about God.
That's great.
So, I remember I called you. And I was like, how are you? And all of a sudden we started talking the same talk. We started speaking the same language. We started asking God the same questions, and we were like, "This can't be a happenstance."
So I'm excited for it. First episode, let's talk about ourselves. So we met a little bit years ago. We'll find out the exact year, but let's talk about today. So currently, I'm 30 years old. How old are you? You're 30 years old. I know that. You're 2 months older than me.
I am?
Yeah. You're
I
March.
don't look it.
You're March. He's got jokes. It's the Italian in me. I'm Italian, as you can tell, and by his confidence, you know what he is.
I'm black and Puerto Rican.
No, Puerto Rican is what I was trying to go to. But yeah, so so I'll talk about me. I went to college, and we both went to college at some point that we're going to get into today. I continued my education, and I went in the sport and wellness background. I got a degree in that. 7-8 years worked in the fitness industry, more sports performance and fitness director. And then just the last 2-3 years, I transitioned and went into education for Chicago public schools.
Huge transition too.
Yeah, so I'm enjoying it. This is my second year. But I'm enjoying it. So what about you? Tell the people.
Are you married or are you single?
Yeah, that's a good question. I am happily married. Right there.
Beautiful.
Got my little ring. 2021. So we're going on.
Wow. Has it been
4
that
years?
long?
Yeah.
Jesus.
4 years. So what about you? I'm sure a lot of people are going to ask, are you married? So start there. Start with that question.
I am not married.
All right.
No, but I'm a police officer.
Okay.
And that is going well. Been doing that for 6 years.
6 years. Yeah, that flew by too.
It's been 6 years.
Yeah.
We have a lot of friends in that occupation as well. What else I've been a Christian since I was 16 years old. I grew up in the church, but I didn't get saved till I was 16.
Till you're 16. What growing up in the church was like? What, since you were a baby, or
just out the womb? They present the babies in the church, and they're like, everybody, the Lion King scene.
Yeah, I remember that, or I know that. Right. I wasn't there, but
that's pretty much how that happened.
I see it. I see.
So
baby
every Sunday, it was familiar territory for me.
That's good.
Yeah.
So how let's go to how we met. because that is I'm curious
we met
to
at
know.
Church.
I'm curious to know though if you remember how we met, because maybe we have two different stories.
I don't remember the details, but we met because we were going to the same church.
But like when we talk about how we first met, right? Or someone was like, how did you and Frank become friends? You don't need to be specific, but what were the things that led to a friendship? How would you remember that?
Athletics.
Okay, like what athletics?
Basketball, working out. Yeah.
Okay. And we met at church, you're saying?
Yeah, well you were going to the same church I was going to at that time.
I feel like I have a pretty good memory, so I'm curious to hear your version of it.
I don't think my memory is that
No, I'm not
sharp.
saying it's okay.
Yeah.
So we were going to the same church.
Right, we're going to the same church. We were hooping with the same people. Yeah.
And then we just stayed talking.
Stayed in communication.
No, yeah, I agree. I think we had a mutual friend who was dating your cousin, and I think that's how we first met.
Is that how we first met?
Yeah, because then we were at the same church, but I think you came around because of that relationship.
Oh,
like I met you
right.
through
I almost
that.
forgot about that.
Yeah, and then from there we were playing basketball all the time and lifting. And you were like the only one out of that group that was like lifting seriously.
Right.
Because they were in decent shape, like our friend Alex was, but everyone else was just average, you know.
Right.
And I was into fitness. I was just getting into it.
Right.
So you were in pretty good shape. So I was like, I'm gonna.
Was I in pretty good shape when I met you?
You were cut. You were always really fit. You were very like cut and lean, and fast.
Those days are over.
So
I'm 30 years old, got a little belly on me.
but yeah, so we started working out. We started going to Planet Fitness and Export and all that. And through that, we just kept hanging out, I guess. So that's the way I remember it.
No, that's actually accurate. Yeah. I don't think my memory is very sharp when it comes to
But yeah, so, and then we eventually ended up going to the same Bible college.
Right.
Do you remember that? Because I think that's such an important part in our friendship, right?
Bible college.
Yeah.
I don't know if there was too much Bible in that college.
Besides in the library.
It was a good experience for sure. I would not take it back.
Me neither. That's what I tell everyone.
Mm-hmm.
They say, oh, you went to Bible college? And I said, yeah. And they say, what do you think?
Yeah.
I said, it's an experience.
It's an experience. That's a good answer.
It's an experience.
It was an experience because I would say we learned some biblical principles there, but I learned more life. I learned more life skills than anything.
That's
in that
what
place,
I say. Yep.
You know, I think honestly, I think that experience taught me more how to stick with God than being in ministry. Period.
Yeah.
Because you're surrounded by like all these opinions and personalities.
And I also think about, you know, just what you said. I learned a little bit about the Bible. It's funny because when I look back at Bible college, I remember there were profound things that were mentioned, but I never got deep in it because it was just so much other things going on.
Right.
So those moments stick with me, and then it was on me to go search. Okay.
Right.
But the interpersonal skills was my biggest takeaway.
Right.
Working with people. I always tell people you're in a building with people who claim they're all Christians, right? I say claim because they claim they're Christians, but they come from different backgrounds, you know, Africa, the country, the city,
rural, urban, different walks of life.
So, and you know, Christians are, I think, the most interesting type of people on this planet. So I think it's great to. It's great because I want to be in full-time ministry one day. I don't know how you feel, if you feel that's your calling, because that's what led me to Bible college.
Right. That's what led me to Bible college.
And so I'm just like, man, this was a great experience because I'm with Christians and they got all these personalities and baggage, and it's you learn how to work with these people, you know?
Right.
Because that's what ministry one day is going to be like. Of course, you're going to get people who don't know Jesus, right? But a lot of the work is going to be with the people on your team and things like that. So you can't expect them to be top notch. You know, we all got flaws.
We all have flaws, right? And we got to see that firsthand.
Yeah.
You know, it was definitely an interesting experience, but yeah, I wouldn't take it back Nothing.
Yeah, no, same here.
And we went with a few other people that we
knew,
which was fun.
The same church.
What
we
was
went out together?
The funniest experience you had there? Because
like
we have various lists.
Oh yeah,
of funny experiences there.
Yeah, and that was the thing. Like us being at Bible college, I know you were mad. Funny story. You were pissed at me.
I was upset.
You were
Bible
pissed
college?
at me.
That
I don't
like
know
me.
if you'll admit it, but I know you were.
That sounds like me. Yeah.
Because we weren't roommates.
Oh,
but that had nothing to do with me.
You betrayed me. We had that agreement.
That had nothing to do with me. So we get there first day because we all started the same semester, and I arrive and they say you're with blah blah blah, and that was one of our guys from Chicago, but we happened to be together. Everyone else was split. And you were so pissed, and I let you stay mad, but. I mean, we eventually that went away, but you were mad. I don't think you've ever.
I didn't remember it until you mentioned it.
But you were mad at me.
That sounds like me. Yeah.
But so we stayed friends. And then what I'm saying is, you had a different roommate that we never knew. We met at college. He seemed to be a cool guy. A little crazy, Tarzan. But yeah, so cool. And he kind of fit in.
Yeah.
And so through that, I mean, it was cool because. We were friends before college, and then we go to college, and we're not living together, but we still, we're still hanging out a lot.
Hall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we come back, and we're still friends. We had a little season where we weren't talking for a bit, and now we're talking again. So that's our friendship in
a nutshell.
Yeah, pretty much. But funniest, we'll go to funniest after this.
I will say, besides a funny story, the origin of this podcast actually started in Bible college.
Okay, did it?
Because we used to sit down wherever we were sitting down, and we used to have these engaging, dynamic conversations, biblical topics.
Yeah.
Just about the humanity of being a Christian.
Yeah.
Because at that time, we were digesting so much knowledge and so many experiences. I feel like we had to let it out at some point. But I also needed somebody to talk to that I felt like had the ability to articulate themselves in a way where they wouldn't hesitate or be vulnerable. So this was kind of instinctive.
Yeah. And what did we used to call those? Do you remember?
Sharpen Sessions.
And that's where we got the name, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
No, that's true. And I talked to you about this too, because we're going to get into it when we talk about the podcast. But what I like about it is that there weren't many people that I could talk to, about the Bible and my faith. In a way, I say when people ask me about like when I came to Christ, because we're going to share a testimony as well, in a way you kind of were a mentor because I was brand new to the faith. And so like we were hanging out a lot and you were kind of like leading. I felt like you were a good example in that. So
there was a few choice of mentors there.
Yes, for real.
Very small options.
So you definitely helped me grow, and the Sharpen Sessions were good because there's things that we read and there's things that we learn and experience in our faith. But sometimes I feel like you can't tell everyone. Like sometimes it either goes past them or it's like they always got to teach you. You ever talk to those Christians where you're trying to give them something or share something that you read, and it's like they're teaching you, and it's like, no.
I hate those conversations.
Yeah, it's so hard.
Anybody trying to teach me and not engage with me is a terrible conversation.
Because I'm always a student first.
Right.
But if every time we're conversating, it's like you're teaching me because you feel like you know this more than me, it's like, man, I don't want to talk to you. Like,
it's a little belittling.
Yeah, it is
to have that kind of talk.
It is. So I feel like
that was really common
sessions were
in that college.
Yeah, it was.
I felt like we were in the G League and everybody was trying to cross me.
Yeah.
From a biblical preaching standpoint, they were just trying to prove I'm making it.
I mean, we had the preaching class.
Yeah.
And that thing was a show. So I took mine online. You guys had to do it in person. See, the thing with Bible college too is I was smarter. In the sense that I transferred my credits. I didn't want to do no writing class there. I didn't want to do math. What are they going to
You had the least responsibility.
So I just said, let's do ministry and let me get out of there. You guys said, I'm going to do the full experience. So you stayed a half a year longer.
Right.
But yeah,
semester,
I did that preaching class online. But I'm sure we got a lot of stories that we can share from that one day.
Plenty of stories.
But yeah. But should we go here? Let's end with the funniest story from college. But let's go into briefly your testimony, because you said that you really gave your life at 16.
Right.
So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, man, there's no way to talk about this without getting deep.
Okay.
So I'm just preparing you for getting
off
schedule. I'm preparing you for getting off schedule.
We got time.
But I did what everybody in America knew to do, which is I went up to the altar, cried, said the prayer, and thought that was not only the initiation of my faith, but probably close to perfecting it.
Okay.
And I don't think that after that I realized what were the next steps to progress. And I don't know if I understood what it was to follow Jesus. Yeah. I thought I'd get introduced to Jesus and then he married me and that was it. Yeah. And so yeah, I don't think I really started becoming a follower. Like what you tell me to say, I'll say. What you tell me to do, I'll do, until the age of probably after Bible college.
Okay. Yeah.
Probably like 24.
Gotcha. Yeah. And what as you were, as when you gave your life, right? And you're on this journey with Jesus, what helped you learn to be a disciple? Like, were there people you got around? Was it just you and your Bible? Like, what kind of helped you?
What helped me is messing up so many times. Life was just dark and anxiously driven, depressing, self-sabotaging, detrimental. Yeah. I mean, every word you could think of to describe a horrible human experience was constantly happening.
Gotcha.
So I was like, something has got to change. You know, a crazy individual keeps doing the same thing and expecting a different result. So I just came to a conclusion that something has to change. I need to be more disciplined. I need to surround myself with the right people. I need to take simple, basic Christian things serious to see if something could change. So
that's true.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, for me, I mean, it was, when people share their testimony, sometimes it's so dramatic. And so I always tell people, mine's not like that. I just remember, I mean, I grew up Catholic because I'm Italian, right? So we do baptism, confirmation, communion, all that. And my friends were going to a Christian church and they kept inviting me. I didn't want to go because it was Friday night. I was in high school, so I just wanted to do other things. And then it was the summer. It was the summer I was 18, just finished high school. And I was sleeping over at my cousin's house. We'd always have sleepovers because he lived in the suburbs. And I just remember waking up one morning and, man, depressed. I'd never really experienced. And you
had no reason for it.
Yeah, and I've never really experienced depression like that. I just woke up and it was basically the thought was what's the purpose to life? Yeah. Waking up.
Just a cloud of darkness.
So that morning I literally said to myself, I think I'm going to go to church where my friends are going. And I'm just going to give my life. And that was probably middle of the week, like Tuesday, Wednesday. And we had the services on Friday. And I texted because I knew they were going. And I said, hey, I'm going to come this Friday. Is there anything I can do to help? They said, they always throw you at the usher. So I was like, yep. So yeah, the moment I went, I was ushering. And the reason was because I've gone a service or two. And so they were a little familiar with me. I was new. But it was I took it serious that morning. I was that morning I woke up, I was I want to serve God. And so I was I don't want to be those Christians that they say yes and then they just sit and, I believe action is important.
Right.
And so that was my way to act and show I was serious about it, right? The word, when Jesus speaks and he's saying, listen and hear, that word translates to also obey. And so there's always action, when you listen, right? There's a response that needs to come with it. So yeah, I started serving and and I was on this. I always say it's a journey, right? There's I like to read, obviously, and there's a book that talks about the different phases of Christian life, and there's different phases, different seasons. But I would say that I went through that period where I wasn't growing. Like, I was a Christian, I was serving, but and it wasn't until I really got in my word. That's what, man, took me to the next level. Man, being in your word every day does something. It really does. You feel so empty. You know, when you talk to a Christian and they got nothing new, not a fresh word, it's like you can tell they're not in the word.
You know something's wrong.
But when you're in your word, it's like, man, you can go on for hours speaking. Right. So, and it wasn't until then. And now, I mean, to this day, I've been serving still. But yeah, it was a great moment. I definitely look back at that day because I remember it so clearly. But
wow.
Yeah, so
that's actually pretty dramatic.
Yeah, you think so?
I think so.
Why?
Because you had no catalyst for the darkness you were experiencing.
That's true.
It was just a byproduct of you not knowing Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah. Because there's a quote, our pastor's preaching a series on purpose, and there's a quote he shared that I'd never heard. And it was like, the most tragic thing is not dying, but dying without a purpose.
Right.
And I'm like, man, I don't want to live life without a purpose, because then what are you doing? It's repetitive, the same thing.
Right.
So, yeah, so I'm excited because I definitely feel like this is a part of the purpose, right?
Right.
And the plan that God has for us. So I'm so excited for this. I know we mentioned our age, and we said that we feel like this is such a good time too, because when we met, there's something you said that we're 30 now. We're not in our teenage years. We're not in our 20s. Like, we've experienced a decent amount of life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So far, I mean, just involving family, work, various experiences from the city we grew up in.
Yeah.
Troubles, trials. Whew.
Yeah, there's a lot. So
it's been a lot.
I think we're a little seasoned,
We're a little seasoned. I mean,
if
I
we're
think
cooking.
It says something that all these heroes in the Bible started their ministry at this age.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I like that. So here, let's go into our favorite or funniest Bible story, and this is where we'll kind of put an end to our
first. You're going first, or I'm going first?
I think you should go first.
This is definitely my favorite story, and it would be that. Okay, so when you go to a Bible college, I have to give you guys. I have to give you context.
Yeah.
When you go to a Bible college, there are rules in place that try to govern all Christian policy. So like another college would have same-sex dorms.
Yeah.
Our females and males were separated.
Yeah.
Another college would have no curfew.
Yeah.
You can come in and out whenever you want.
Yeah.
We had a curfew.
Yeah.
So much so that it was implemented that we had ID cards and you could not get into the dorm after curfew.
Yeah.
So one of the rules they had set in place was that we had to go to the church attached to our college every service. There was literally like 100 services a week.
Every service. It was a mega church, right?
Mega church, yeah. So there was one service. This was in my heathen days, by the way. I did not go to service that often. So there was this one particular service in the summertime that I did not go to because I wanted to hoop.
Yeah.
And I was hooping with other students outside.
Let me stop right away. For those that may not be cultured, hooping means play basketball. I'm thinking about that. What if people don't know what hooping means?
They shouldn't be watching. You know what hooping means. You should be watching.
So you didn't go. You were playing ball.
I did not go to church. I was playing ball. And there was a few students there, and one of the dean of students comes out of the church building.
I remember.
And it's a long walk, like a 3-minute walk.
You see
to
it
the court.
coming too.
You see it coming from a mile away.
You hear those heels.
Yeah, you hear her. She's a fairly big lady.
So
she's just staring at us with these beady eyes, and she gets to us where she can approach us, and she says something like, "Aren't you guys supposed to be in service?" And my friend, without wasting any time, responds, better is one day in his course than 1,000 days.
Oh, I can't believe he said that.
We're on the basketball court, so it made perfect sense.
It made sense.
How witty do you have to be to use the Bible against a Bible teacher?
Exactly. Do you remember her response? Because I wasn't there.
I think she was just speechless. Yeah, honestly, she was speechless, upset, but I couldn't have come up with a better response.
And I like how you mentioned the Bible college government, because when we get into that, because I know we will at some point, like that's going to be a podcast in itself.
Right.
But how, like you said, they try to govern, they try to, I don't want to use the word manipulation, but sometimes it can feel that way. I feel like, because some schools can manipulate, but I feel like they weren't that, maybe people felt that, but to me, it wasn't as strict, it wasn't like they're gripping your neck. But we went in with questions about the school. We did the preview day. We said, this is what we want. Do you have this? Yeah. Because, schools they want you to come in. Mm-hmm. And when we got there, it's like they took it all away. So we held them to their word. I remember she took us into the office that one day, me, you, and our friend, and said, you guys are such an influence at this school, and you guys aren't you remember that conversation?
I do.
And we said, listen, we came here with expectations, and you haven't produced. You haven't held your end. So we're not
paying for this.
Yeah, so we're not gonna. And so we'll get into that, because, man, I think that's gonna be helpful for people too, to understand, like, not to be manipulated in the faith, because that can happen
easily.
And also to know, right? I think me and you are both good with people. I think you've grown. So. You've grown a lot. I would say there are times when in our friendship where you did things. I was like, oh man,
I'm not that good with people. But
I think you've grown a lot in that. But what I'm saying is, our alternate to getting access to the basketball court, because they had one, it wasn't being used. We made friends with the security guard.
Right.
So there's things you do that are still good things with good intentions, but you gotta know the system.
Yeah.
So, you remember that?
I do.
We had
remember
two
that
security guard friends.
How is your memory so sharp?
Man, I just there's certain things that when you talk, it takes me back. So I'm not that good. But I'm gonna share my story, and then we'll wrap it up. But I love this story. I wasn't there for it. It was your good friend at the time at Bible college. He was there for years on years. We know the guy.
My good friend?
He always drove a specific car.
Oh, okay. Got it.
And so he knew the school well, and he knew the history, and he was sharing stories with us. I believe it was him. And he told us that there was one year where the pastor's mother felt very like a strong, what should we call it, like prophetic word or conviction. Yeah. Okay. And she felt strongly towards the men at the school, right? And I believe his words was, she felt there was a spirit of masturbation. Do you remember that? A spirit of masturbation. So he was telling us they went to the chapel, okay, and the mother, they're having their service, and they pass the mic around because they all get those words. And Mama came on the mic here, and she said, "I feel the Lord God telling me something." And she called up all the boys at the school to come and kneel on the altar. So they made a nice line. That the sanctuary was beautiful. It was big. You can take a lap.
Gorgeous.
You take laps. And so they lined up, kneeling. And then what comes next was she said that she felt the Lord tell her that there's a spirit of masturbation, and she kicked each student in the nuts going down the. Man, every time I tell
we don't know how true this story is.
We don't know how true, but the fact that it came out of someone's mouth who knew some of the history, I don't think they could be making all this up. There's probably parts that were true and parts that were untrue. But Mama came through and kicked those boys in the nuts.
She taught them a lesson.
And rebuked the spirit of masturbation.
She definitely taught them a lesson.
Oh man, so
I don't know if it made a difference, but she tried.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if the demon came out or if the pain Because I'm sorry, I'm spitting on you. The pain. Later that night.
It was practical and spiritual.
Yeah. If that pain stopped,
I could see that. I could see that. Yeah.
Oh man, I'm sorry. I can't.
It's okay.
It's probably the funniest story. I tell people this story sometimes, like I told you, and man, they fall out their chair laughing. I can't.
Oh,
I'm gonna spit the water out. But that's how we're gonna end episode 1.
Yeah.
With that,
next episode will be.
Next episode, I believe we're gonna share the vision, right? The plan.
Definitely.
What's
just
next?
An intro.
What's next for this podcast? I'm spitting here.
It's over.
I'm spitting here. So next episode, we're gonna talk about what's next, what to expect from this podcast. So we hope to see you. We hope you enjoyed it. This was a good first one. I like it.
It was.
Felt natural. Felt good.
I'm a little nervous. Too many lights.
We'll see you. See you.